Joining us to discuss is Kevin O'Quinn, former lead intelligence surveillance and reconnaissance coordinator for the U.S. Army. So, Kevin, an Iranian official said this: "Let us be clear. In the case of an attack on Iran, the occupied territories, as well as all U.S. bases and ships, will be our legitimate target." So, you're an expert on this. Interpret it for us.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on. Always good to see you. I would say, first, this is something the Iranian regime has to say. They've got to project power, especially in the region where Israel is starting to expand their sphere of influence. Look, Israel has taken out and completely decimated Iranian proxies like Hezbollah, Hamas, within the region. And so now the people of Iran are rising up against the Iranian regime because the Iranian regime is sending their economic, their money, sending resources over to these proxies in order to attack Israel, and the Iranian people are feeling it in their bank accounts. And because of that, the Trump administration has said, if Iran becomes if Iran becomes violent to the protesters, the U.S. will go in and they will protect these protesters in maybe kinetic ways. That's one of the courses of actions that we heard, is a possible kinetic strike on Iran. Now, they're not there yet. So Iran has to project power and tell the rest of the world, because they're not really telling the United States this. They're explaining to the rest of the world, or the Middle East region, that, look, we are still the regime here and we are still powerful, and we are going to do everything to protect our power.
Okay, so Kevin, if I remember correctly, President Trump said that the U.S. is locked and loaded if the Iranian regime starts killing protesters. Would this statement have any impact at all on potential U.S. actions that it may be thinking?
Yeah, I think the statement is more of a public statement to the Iranian people. But look, is the U.S. locked and loaded as of right now? Could we send could we do a kinetic strike on Iran? Absolutely. But we don't have the resources to do a proper kinetic strike within the country. That's going to take some time. We've got carrier strike groups that are placed all around the globe. We'd have to get one within the region. And the reason for that is not because we can't just go out and strike Iran and be done with it. It's protecting U.S. troops because of the aftermath of that, and protecting Israel because of what would happen after that. We have a regime in Iran that is very close to a nuclear weapon, and we don't know from a covert perspective on if they have anything that can destroy Israel at any given chance. So that's something that the United States has to understand. That they're going to have to, when they're doing their courses of action, this is something that is that's going to have to come out. Can Iran reach our forces in the Middle East? And if they can, without the U.S. being able to protect those forces, any kinetic strike is going to have to be delayed until we can move those assets into the region.
Okay, so you said earlier that the regime has to say this. Are they coming from a place of confidence or nervousness or something else?
Absolutely nervousness. I don't think the regime right now is confident, but they are going to project confidence. Look, we have not seen this in Iran since 1979. Now, I am not going to assume your age, Don. I'm not going to disclose my age, but I was not there for the 1979 Iranian Revolution. But this feels like what we've read in history books, something similar. And the reason this is different is because of the economic aspect to this. If this was ideological, like we've seen before with women rising up to take off the hijab, I think that could be quelled pretty easily. You put a fist down on people and they say, is it really that important? And they for the most part, they'll probably say no. But if you cannot afford bread, if you cannot afford eggs, if you cannot bring dinner to your family, that affects you, and you will rise up and you will do violent things to the regime because of that.
Okay, so if they're coming from a place of nervousness, how worried is the Iranian regime about the protests there potentially being able to threaten its survival or its rule?
I'm very worried. Look, if the reporting is correct, and I have not verified any of the reporting coming out of Iran. It's very difficult to verify that. But if that reporting is correct, we are seeing hundreds of people who are being violently attacked by security forces. The Iranian regime needs to quell these protests in order to keep power. They know that if the people continue on the streets and the economy continues to collapse, their days are numbered. And we could see a very public display of violence from the protesters, something maybe like we saw with Gaddafi years ago.
Do you think the Iranian regime's comments, is that going to deter the U.S. from doing what it wanted to do, if it wanted to do anything in the first place?
Oh, absolutely not. No, we saw with Venezuela, the Trump administration is ready to do anything. The problem here is we need to get the forces in place, the assets in place, and understand. You want to finish that. You want regime change in Iran non-violently from a U.S. perspective, meaning we don't want to put U.S. troops in harm's way to change the Iranian regime. Why not just let the people who are rising up do that for the United States? And then the problem there becomes, what the day after? Who steps into the vacuum? And so I think that is the question that everyone should be looking into. And I think that's what I am starting to unpack over the next few weeks of the day after. Regime change isn't always the best thing. It's the next government that comes could be even more authoritarian.
Okay, Kervin, just one final question here, and I want a quick one from you on Cuba. What do you make of Trump's comments when it comes to Cuba, including saying that it's ready to fall?
Yeah, I think the economy is ready to collapse in Cuba. And look, a lot of Cuba's stability, which wasn't that very stable to begin with, relied on places like Venezuela and allies like Russia and Iran and China. And now that Venezuela is in a collapse and no longer propping up Cuba, I do think it could collapse from the inside, and it could be very, very quickly. And that could also be true for Colombia and other places that were Venezuelan allies within the region.
Well, okay, Kervin, good to talk to you. Thank you again for coming on.
As always, it's a pleasure. Stay safe out there.